Jax's frustration is reaching a boiling point, and the latest hint from Gooseworx suggests it's only going to spiral from here. She shared an unsettling line from Jaxs in an upcoming episode, "I want you dead," and it leaves us wondering just how far he's willing to go, and even more so, who he's saying it to. Gooseworx recently opened up in a Tumblr Q&A, revealing some interesting insights about the show, and today we're diving into what she said about Jax's character and what might lie ahead for him and the others. The most interesting question, and this theory's inspiration, is this one. Can we get a random Jaxs line from any episode other than the ones already out? And Gooseworx shared this one quote, "I want you dead." From what we've seen so far, Jaxs is not the most stable person in the circus. It often seems like he acts impulsively, like basically all throughout episode 2, so I can definitely imagine him reaching his breaking point, where he cannot mask his emotions with being rude or acting annoyed. But as for who he wants to see dead is not certain. There are a lot of candidates, so let's see what might be the most possible option. My first guess when I read Gooseworx's answer is that Jaxs is selling this to Pomni. Bear with me, I know that there are lots of people who love their dynamic and who even ship them, but to me it seems like Jaxs is triggered by Pomni. She is the newest member in the circus, and Jaxs doesn't seem to have that much control over her as he'd like. Just think about episode 3's end, where he tried to badmouth Ginger with Pomni, but Pomni wasn't playing along. With each episode, it feels like Pomni is getting more and more confident, and the initial shock and anxiety seems to transform into a clear direction. It also helped that she spent some alone time with Ginger, where he assured her that she shouldn't isolate herself and she should let people know she cares about them. So when Pomni was telling Ragata how she appreciates her kindness, just look at Jax's face. And maybe it was for the best that he couldn't talk or walk away, because I'm pretty sure he would have either had something bad to say or he would have just simply walked away, like how we saw in episode 2 before Kaufmo's funeral. But we also have to admit that Jaxs is not dumb. If we're really gonna see him acting worse than ever, then my guess is that he won't be so upfront. And what I mean is, if he'd want to kill Pomni, maybe he will instead hurt Ragata or Ginger or whoever is the closest to Pomni, and watch her fall apart once again when she loses another one of her loved ones. Cause Jaxs saw how Pomni reacted to Gummy Goo's death, and so he's aware that Pomni is sensitive when it comes to her friends. So I think it's possible that we'll see Jaxs abstracting someone close to Pomni, and that will mess her up badly. And Gooseworx had a Q&A a while ago where she had a question. How would you describe Pomni and Jax's relationship in a nutshell? To which she answered, messy. And now she was also asked a similar question. What's your opinion on the funny bunny ship? Meaning Jaxs and Pomni. I genuinely don't know whether the people who ship it are going to love or hate the direction the story goes. Now, okay, we know that there won't be any romantic relationships in the show, and Gooseworx already said that she doesn't mind shipping, but this is interesting. But the next question that caught my eye was this one. Does Jaxs like bunnies? And Gooseworx said, Jaxs likes a lot of things he would never admit. And this hint could mean that Jaxs is secretly drawn to some of the qualities Pomni has, even if he'd never admit it. Jaxs seems almost allergic to any kind of vulnerability, so Pomni's kindness and compassion might bring up confusing feelings for him, feelings he can't easily handle or express. And just by being around, Pomni forces Jaxs to deal with parts of himself he'd rather ignore. This might be why he acts so harshly toward her. He's both attracted to and annoyed by her honesty and openness. Also, Jax's mean behavior toward Pomni might actually be hiding a need for her approval or a way to control her. Pomni's caring nature and ability to stay strong, even when things are tough, might remind Jaxs of the softer side he tries to bury. And this creates a messy dynamic, especially because Pomni refuses to play by Jax's rules. He might want her to see things his way and share his cynical outlook, but her natural kindness and desire to help others stand in the way of that. Or another possibility is that Jaxs would want to hurt Pomni explicitly, but his plan backfires and instead he helps Pomni become a better person. And this idea suggests that the relationship might be messy because their personal growth is so connected. Jax's harshness could actually help Pomni become stronger. So if he keeps pushing her, she might not just learn to stand up to him, but also find her own ways to handle the circus without losing herself. So when Gooseworx said that the story could go in a direction fans don't expect, it might mean that Jax's cruelty actually plays a role in Pomni's growth. And just think about episode 2. When Jax threw Pomni out from the truck, it led to Pomni falling down to the back room with Gummy Goo, and they had a great conversation there. And yeah, Gummy Goo did die and Pomni lost her new friend, but it also contributed to Pomni's realization at the end through her vision. So after all, it all comes back to Jax. So instead of breaking her, his actions could make her more compassionate and determined, while he ends up dealing with the fact that he's made her a stronger person in the process. And in the end, Gooseworx calling their relationship messy could be her way of showing that Jax and Pomni are meant to push each other's limits and force each other to change. Jax's hostility might be exactly what pushes Pomni to grow, creating a dynamic that's more complex than just enemies or friends. But another possibility is that Jax wants to see Gangle dead, because he has been torturing her in all 3 episodes, and I'm not sure why. Is it because she is the easiest to hurt? But now with episode 4 right around the corner, maybe things will change. If Gangle actually becomes the manager in the fast food adventure and Jax would have to work for Gangle, it could mess with their dynamics. Because normally Jax would obviously stamp at her and act like he's in charge, but maybe he won't be able to do that this time, only deepening his frustration with Gangle. And maybe it's also possible that Gangle will enjoy the role reversal, and she'll try to mess with Jax the same way he did with her. And lately Jax had a lot going on. Like in episode 3, he got put on the sideline because he was tied up almost throughout the whole episode, and then Pomni also turned her back on him, so I can imagine how frustrated he must feel. And if these things keep adding up, Jax could snap. And my last guess is that he's telling this line to Ragata. Gooseworx also shared something interesting about Jax and Ragata's relationship when she said, "I feel like I should preemptively apologize to the bunny doll shippers." Now, of course, she didn't explain what she meant exactly, but judging by how different these 2 characters are, I can see Jax having enough of Ragata's compulsory kindness. We saw at the end of episode 2 that when Ragata tried to comfort Jax, telling him that the next adventure will be more to his favor, he snapped at her. So I think it's possible that Ragata will catch Jax in a vulnerable moment when his guard is down, and she'll try to comfort him or tell him that it's gonna be alright, but Jax obviously won't be able to take it, and maybe he'll reach a point where he says something this cruel to her. And to be honest, Ragata actually doesn't seem too far from going insane and abstracting, so maybe Jax will be able to contribute to Ragata's abstraction, or essentially death. And another interesting thing I wanted to point out is that maybe him saying that he wants someone dead is related to the fact that he will curse in one of the episodes. So far it was expected that Jax won't curse in the show, but when someone asked Gooseworx, is there a reason as to why Jax doesn't cuss at all? Gooseworx said, "I changed one of the scripts, he cusses once now." And it's interesting because Gooseworx wouldn't just make Jax curse for no reason. It would probably be important for his story. And if Jax's first curse happens, it might be a big moment for him. It could be his way of expressing deep frustration or even helplessness. Maybe he reaches a breaking point, a moment where his anger flares out of control. And this would show he's starting to lose control of his feelings, making it a big turning point in his story. But Zubul and Kinger seem to be safe from Jax's anger, I think. Zubul seems to know how to handle Jax, or at least they don't seem to be that affected by him. But it's possible that the reason why I think that is because there wasn't too many scenes where Zubul and Jax were together. And as for Kinger, Jax doesn't seem particularly fond of him, but there's a subtle vibe in the way Jax acts around Kinger that hints he might actually feel a bit sorry for him. Jax might see Kinger as a warning sign of what he could become if he loses control or lets the circus get to him. It doesn't seem likely that Jax would want Kinger dead or would go so far as to try to abstract him. But as for how it will end or if Jax will actually contribute to somebody's death or abstraction, we cannot be sure. Maybe it's possible that he only says it out of frustration, but he'll never act on it. Or maybe this line is actually targeted towards Kane, because the circus members are probably all fed up with him and his adventures, so maybe Jax actually speaks out what everybody else is thinking. But let me know who you think Jax wants to see dead down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.